Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a concerning pattern that I see potentially developing in the medium to long range pattern. Now I'll just be, just say what I'm talking about right off the bat. This is regarding a potential heat wave that could be developing across the United States. Again, this is more, I would almost say, pretty speculative, as there are some signs of this, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys and see, maybe warn you ahead of time of this. Again, it may not ever come to fruition. However, even if it doesn't, to the scale of what some of the models are showing, I do think that we do have a pretty hot summer ahead of us. I mean, we've seen already really hot episodes of heat. I mean, there's been pretty much not a single area under a that is not under heat advisory across the United States. There's always seems to be some area that is under heat advisory, either a heat warning. They're becoming more and more common, and you can see that, for example, today it's across a good portion of northeastern Texas, the Texarkana area, right, and into portions of Louisiana, obviously, Oklahoma and Arkansas. And I mean, you click right there, let's just click on random location, 97 degrees. Tomorrow it peaks really and it goes 104, 96, 99, 99. You can see a lot of these areas are definitely going to get a hit with a lot of heat, but that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a more long-term pattern into the into the future. So let me just start off by showing you the weather model. So this is the GFS. It's just one singular model, but it does a pretty good job, in my opinion, of showing, I guess, temperature patterns, and I use it as much as I use the European model. I think they're both probably the two best models that are out there. And to notice that, through the next 84 hours, there's really nothing. Again, I mentioned this is the medium to long range, and in fact, really the next several days will be cool. All the way, you can see this is next Wednesday, July 13th. Still pretty cool for a good portion of the Midwest, Northeast. It is starting to heat up across the Northwest, though, as you can see that we start along the coast with the heat, but then that eventually spills inwards. So obviously that is not good, as it's pretty dry there. Wildfire risk is much greater. There's a much greater forest there than, say, across the central United States or whatnot. But notice that this doesn't really go away. We see this heat kind of expanding. We see that cool air also, stay rather prevalent across Midwest and eventually sliding into more of the Northeast. But this heat right here is definitely becoming more and more dominant, and you could see that it's dominating more and more of the map as compared to the blue. And as we get towards hour 200, which is pretty much where kind of the medium range starts morphing into the long range, you can see that we're consistently stuck in a very warm pattern for a good portion of the United States, central U.S., again, the Great Lakes portion, a good portion of the West still, though the coastal areas may start getting a bit of relief. Notice all of southern Canada, the Canadian prairies, all the way into Ontario, Quebec. It is also looking rather warm, and this just intensifies. This doesn't go anywhere. Look, some of these colors, especially the anomalies, seem to be very warm during the night. Notice that during the day it is still warmer than average, but it seems as if they really flare up during the nighttime hours. Obviously, if you do have any thunderstorms, cloud cover, there will be pockets of cool air, right? But for the most part, we have a very large warm dome of heat that could be occurring around the mid of July. Again, this isn't terribly far out. This is, I mean, it's definitely, again, in the, at this point, long range. But it's, these anomalies are definitely concerning. If you're to take a look at that and look at the 2-meter temperature shaded, yeah, that would not be good for those areas, 115, 17, with such extreme anomalies as I was showing you here. And this doesn't go away anywhere. This continues for a while. Notice, again, this is now July 19th. Look at some of these colorations. I mean, just literally pushing off the charts there. And again, this doesn't seem to be going. And you can see it does spread up. It does end up spreading eastward. We do have a bit of cool air towards the west, but instead of pushing out the warm air, it gets suppressed, and we see more warm air infiltrating the west. And the further and further I go, I don't see any signs of immediate relief, or I guess the anomalies going a bit down. They are still very impressive, and what we see is, besides from where areas of thunderstorm activity, we see just this heat expanding into an almost countrywide heat wave. Obviously, you can see some pockets of cool air will be there, but southern Canada, the northern United States, the southern United States, the eastern United States, and just look at this. As I go more and more forward, we see this pretty much nationwide, and these anomalies are rather ridiculous. So this doesn't really fare well. Look at this. I mean, as far out as I go on this one, it looks as if the heat is completely dominating the U.S. Now, again, this is far out, right? 384 hours. That is pretty unreliable. But, you know, the thing is that this starts, you know, well within the 200-hour range, this heat. So that is obviously why I am talking about it, because if it was just showing it at 350 hours out, you know, that's when the weather models start entering their kind of crazy stage, and you can't really trust them. But look at some of these shaded, because I showed you the anomaly, which is basically how warm it is compared to that average baseline climatology of 1981 through 2010. But look at the actual thermometer readings, and you can see that every day during the day we have these flare-ups of widespread hundreds plus, hundreds, 110, maybe even 115, and you can see that this continues and spreads for a good portion of the United States. We have heat across the north, the south, the northeast, and again, even the Great Lakes, the Midwest. And look at some of these, thermometer readings, just absolutely incredible. And this is occurring during some of the warmest times of the year. So this definitely would be a, again, adding to the concern, because you take a 10-degree anomaly and you go from, a warm temperature to an extremely hot and dangerous temperature. If this were to occur in late August, it's a bit, it's a bit different. The sun is already shorter up in the sky. It takes more. But look at this last frame right here. Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, truly, look at that. Wow. Hundreds. Obviously hopefully this doesn't come true, but this is definitely something that if it were to occur, I'd want to give you a heads up notice. So that is what the GFS shows. Now, obviously, I want to show you, previous model runs to see if this was a trend that has been occurring, and I want to show you that right now. So let's go back to hour 0, and let's play this forward. So again, let's look at this. So well, let's run it through once at least so it could load, and then I'll slow it down. So again, this is the current one. You can see it's a lot more mixing. We have cool areas, we have areas of heat, warmth, nothing too incredible. No singular pattern that is absolutely dominating. But do note that the previous model run also showed that heat moving in into the west around midweek next week. The cool weather is still sticking around across the Great Lakes and Northeast. I would say enjoy it while it lasts, because then that heat that moves in from the west moves further into the Central Plains and the eastern, eventually United States. And you can see that the previous model run from today at noon also showed a lot of this heat at around the middle of July. And you can see that some of those anomalies are also very stunningly high. So you can see that there has been consistency in the model runs. However, the difference is that this one does end up in the long term I guess making some of these anomalies a bit less aggressive. But look, I mean, holy cow, that is extreme heat, to say the least. Look at those purple colors. That would not be good. And let me go back to the anomalies. Do note, however, unlike the most recent one that keeps the heat going, this one gives it a little bit of a break. There are still some really ridiculously strong anomalies elsewhere, but it shifts it off towards the west a bit, the heat, and the south, and brings in a bit of cool air for the middle part of the country. But again, still, the heat is, I would say, rather dominant, even though the cooler is a bit more mixed in there. Let's go back to the morning model run and see what this one showed. So again, I'm showing you several, so it's not just one random model that's I'm picking out. And again, there's that heat moving in midweek next week, eventually spreading towards the central U.S. and the northeast. And you can see that it stays there for a while. These anomalies, especially for the plains, could be brutal. And you can see that sticks around for quite a while, and it is the dominant kind of, I guess, pattern for a good portion of the United States. And this one, unlike the noon one, keeps it through like the most recent one with no signs of relief. So definitely not good. I could show you the GEFS, which are basically a bunch of ensembles that pretty much track, I guess, again, the same thing as a singular GFS does, except they're just all compiled on top of each other, and it shows us an average. So, right, if one model thinks it's very hot, one thinks it's very cold, then it's going to show an average of just kind of neutral. So, if it's showing something blue, then that means most are thinking it's going to be cooler at this time frame, most think it's going to be warmer here. And it's a great source to use because it's kind of, it reduces, I guess, the chances of some random outlier. And notice that, like the other models, it shows that heat beginning to develop around July 13th, 14th across the west, maybe even a bit earlier the 12th. Cool weather across the Midwest and Northeast through most of next week. So again, this still isn't imminent, but definitely, enjoy it while it lasts. You can see this heat is building, and eventually, just like all the other GFS model runs I showed you, they show this heat becoming nationwide and, with few relief, other than maybe where monsoons are occurring or some thunderstorm activity. And you can see that those colors are definitely, pretty dark, and, it's pretty much, again, as I said, nationwide and even just continent-wide. Canada, you can see, is also getting in on it, and a good portion of Mexico. Let me show you now the European. Again, European only goes out to 240 hours, but again, this pattern starts taking shape within that 240 hours. So let's see if that, happens. So again, this is the current one. You can see a lot of mingling, a lot of cool air masses, a lot of warm. Though again, midweek next week, we start seeing that extreme hot air mass across the west building. It does eventually spread towards the north and east and the Great Lakes. And you can see that the European definitely shows that building, and there's less and less of those blue colors towards the end, and we see a lot more of those warmer colors. So again, I guarantee you, if I were to put this even forward, the European would be probably showing a very similar scenario to what the GFS is showing, and only time will tell whether or not it will. In the next few days, I'll keep you guys updated. Week 3 to 4, so this is the 23rd through the 5th, so this is pretty much, you're even further. This is you're even further than what the GFS shows. This is what the Climate Prediction Center does. They issue these 3 to 4 week outlooks very far. So it starts on this day, July 23rd, and takes it through the beginning of August. And you can see that they're favoring above average temperatures across a good portion of the country. And what makes this even worse, a lot of those areas will be also drier. There will be a few areas that are wetter, which is the northeast and southeast, but a lot of the areas, especially where they need that rain for the crops that are ripening and whatnot, they need water, and it's going to be hot and dry. That's not good. But let's take a look at a shorter term outlook. So again, 6 to 10 days out. So this is around midweek next week. And again, as I said, it's going to start worse off from the west. The heat, you can see building, still a bit cooler maybe towards the southeast and east. Precipitation outlook, drier for a good portion of the country. A bit wetter here, which isn't bad per se. Definitely could provide a bit of relief, but still, how long this pattern is, how long it sticks around really determines how bad the situation will get. And then if you go out to 8 to 14 days, it's pretty much nationwide, as I said, and again, mainly dry for a good portion of the U.S., which would not spell good for the heartland, where most of the food grows and whatnot. So that is definitely, definitely a bit concerning. That's why I titled that video this. But again, if this doesn't come true, that will be good. But I really don't think that this is just some sort of a, it's a multi-day thing that models have been showing. It really has support from most of the models, right? The European and the GFS. The Canadian, I don't really like looking at it in terms of its temperature anomalies. It's always doing something of its own, but let's just take a look at it, because why not? Notice that it too does start showing a bit of heat moving in onto the west midweek next week, and that does eventually, I guess, spill into the rest of the United States. Again, a lot more oranges than blues for sure from the Canadians, so in that sense, it's definitely still supportive of that. So yeah, that is that. I could show you the GFS precipitation outlook. If there's going to be a lot of heat, hopefully at least there's a lot of rain, and unfortunately you can see that it's nothing incredible. It's actually very dry across the areas that could have the worst of the heat, so that is not good whatsoever. And it spells definitely a concerning pattern, and that's what I'm going to be calling this. So I hope you guys enjoyed, hope you learned something new, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.